welcome back to another episode of the Blueprints Brocast. I'm Austyn Tokar.
And I'm Jay Cruz.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about stress and stress management. So, I mean, you should probably start because we just talked about the last episode.
Oh, man. See, here's the thing, though. When stuff happens, like a bad thing happens, I'm really good about staying like calm about whatever the issue is. Like, I'm like, okay, I look at it and just assessing. Like, let me look at this thing and say, oh, okay, here's the issue. And here's where my stress needs to go with it, right? So what I typically try to do is not like, in that situation, like I immediately went to like, who's at fault?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I could tell.
Yeah, I know. And the only reason for that is because like, hey, I need to know who did it so then I can figure out how it happened.
Yeah.
So then I can fix it.
Yeah.
So like for me, like if I find the bottom, like the common denominator, like the bottom piece of why something is happening, then I feel like I can say, okay, here's how I can fix it. And then there I can see the end. Like I can picture where it's going to be.
Yeah, work backwards.
Yeah. If I look at a situation, I'm like, oh man, here's where it could go. Like here's the end goal of where it could all get like broken. And like, I'm out on the street, you know, like I'm homeless now. Like if I take it to the complete worst scenario at the end, dude, my stress level skyrockets.
Yeah.
But if I manage it and say like, hey, here's my circle of influence. Here's what I can control. Here's what I actually can like do something about it. Then I'm fine. Yeah. But if I look at all the variables where like I can't control the things about it, if I look at all those, dude, I think anybody's stress level like goes up about all the things that they can't put their hands on and tangibly like, oh, let me fix this thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, in that situation, it's important to, well, if it needs acted upon like ASAP, do whatever needs to be done, and then like take your breath. If it doesn't have to be acted upon in that instant, take a breath first. Go do a few steps if you need to. Get some active meditation, whatever you want to call it, just to like get your mind off of it almost, and like become present. With what like see what actually is like, and I know it's hard to like be like, oh, frick, like you get upset about the situation, but it's important to keep a cool head, no matter what it is, because what does an angry what is that saying? Shoot.
I don't know where you're going. So
I think I heard it off of VeggieTales. Anyways, you want to keep a cool head in all those situations, right? You just want to act clearly with it, which you did a good job about that.
Well, children can anger you in a special way.
Yeah.
I think the thing is like if you tell an employee, anybody, like, hey, like I've been through here, I've been through this. Like I'm wise. I've experienced all these things. I know the consequences of if you do this, then this will happen.
Yeah. And
what happened because, they didn't do what I asked them to do. So like I was upset, not because of the thing that happened, but because of all the instruction I had before wasn't followed or heeded, and it led to the issue. I mean, that's all of us in all of our lives. Whenever we most of the time when we come upon something that's just like, oh man, this is super stressful, most of the time it's self-inflicted and we didn't avoid the warning signs.
Yeah.
But there are those moments where like you're just driving and someone hits you. There's nothing you could have done about that. And yes, your stress level goes up. You didn't prepare for, hey, I wasn't planning on getting in an accident, but now I got all these things that I have to like think about, doctor's bills and insurance and all these things. But I think self-inflicted stress is manageable. Mm-hmm. I actually don't have a whole lot of experience with stress, like outside of things that I caused myself. Like I feel like every amount of stress I've ever dealt with in my life is my own fault.
Yeah. I mean, so you can tell me, like you're saying, car accidents and
I haven't been in one yet, thank God. But so that's why I said I can't relate to that one.
Or almost car accidents, whatever you want to call it. I think in those situations, like you got to take it on the chin, and then after like it happens, you take a pull of like, okay, what's good, because obviously you can name all the bad things right off the bat, right? I think that in particular is very hard because you're like, those are the situations where you see in the movies, like, why me? Why did this happen? That kind of stuff, where it's not, like you said, self-inflicted.
Yeah.
It's just like, why does the universe hate me? But like, it's not that it hates you. It's bound to happen to somebody. It just happened to be you that day, that week, whatever, that month. But within stress, there's a lot of different factors that it can affect in your life, right? So when we're specifically talking about stress inside of, like our daily activity, our performance in the gym, and we'll just say life in general, performance will be affected, whether it be working out or just performance at work. It's very hard to stay focused in a lot of situations where you're thinking about other things happening in your life. Recovery, it is very hard to recover when you are stressed out. You cannot sleep. Cortisol levels are through the roof. It's a very, what does haphazard mean? I started asking myself, what do certain words mean before I even say it now? Because like, it's a very haphazard event, but does that even work?
The word is haphazardly.
Haphazardly, okay.
And it's just something that happens randomly, and it's a hazard.
Okay.
Like it's something that bad that happens. You're like, oh man, what the heck? Like,
Yeah. So I started asking myself, what does this word even mean, instead of using it? Because you ever talk to someone and then like you're like, that doesn't work. Why'd you use that word?
Yeah. Whenever I'm talking to you, it happens all the time.
I just use the wrong form of the word, But there are some times I will say like that the word doesn't fit. So some other things are overall well-being, our immune system, hormones, sleep, mental health, and then just overall motivation. A lot of those things can be affected with stress. Have you had to deal with any of that?
I think so. The job that I was at the longest, we did really well as a business, as a team, as a group. But I would have corporate come, and they would just come and just say stuff. You're being very productive, and you're gaining money for the company, but then they just decide to come and like just nitpick stuff, and then you get stressed out about it. I think I was like super stressed during that time, and that was frustrating because there was nothing I could do about it. That's actually a perfect example. It was outside of me. There's nothing I could do, and I personally held stress. So when I get stressed, my trap, like right below it, it just tenses up and it hurts. Yeah. And so that's when I know that I'm stressed. And I'm actually like thinking about stress right now, and I'm getting like this literally hurting right now just thinking about stress.
But you also know what you're doing when you're doing that though? You're shrugging. You're doing your shoulders up. It's just the unconscious movement you do. And I think that's why a lot of people get that stress in the neck, stress in the traps, like you say. You're just constantly like, oh man. Whether you're looking down, bringing the shoulders up, some form of that. Yeah. It's just like an unconscious habit.
Yeah. I think I kind of, like you were saying, like step away from it. Like I had to just like not pay attention to stress in order to not be stressed. Because if I even think about it for a moment, like I am now, like I think this whole episode, I'm going to feel stressed because we're talking about it. It's just the way it works.
Well, you live through it. You're like, what do I remember? Oh man, I don't want to remember that right now.
Yeah. As I'm sitting here reliving things, that's what's bringing it back up.
What kind of stress did you have when, let's say when Tristan was being born, you're having your first kid?
He was fine. I think I was mostly pretty prepared. Not in terms of like, I know how to be a parent, but like, we had like the birth plan or whatever. Like, you had the bags packed, you have the car seat in the car. You practiced a bunch of times on how to like, put the baby in. So I felt well practiced in that sense. I was stressed out when I found out I was having twins. So when Corbin and Kinsley came around, I think that day, when Julie went in to go get the ultrasound, she's like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was twins. And I was like, no, I'm the one who said that actually. And she's like, no way. Yeah, as a joke. And she's like, no way, that's not going to happen. And that day, I think it was the first day I had Vietnamese coffee. So somebody brought me Starbucks. So I drank that. I had one of the workers. He came in and was like, hey, you ever have Vietnamese coffee? And I was like, no. And he's like, all right, let me go get you some. So he went some, got some. And then one of my coworkers that lifted, he's like, hey man, this is the best pre-workout. You should try this can of Nas. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll try that. So I had all three of those like within the same day. Mm-hmm. And it's probably at least because Vietnamese coffee is like a whole pot of coffee in one cup. That's how strong it is.
Yeah.
And the NOS is like 300 milligrams. So I was sitting on at least 600, maybe 700 milligrams of caffeine.
It even worsens.
And then Julie calls me and says, hey, like I had the ultrasound, went there, and it's going to be twins. Dude, like my vision blurred that day. My left arm like went numb. And like my heart was like just like beating all kinds. And I thought I was having a heart attack, you know? And so I actually went.
You set yourself up for a catalyst of events there.
Oh, man, yeah. But I didn't know all that was going to happen that day. And so I think it was 10 o'clock at night. We ended up going to the ER. Mom was like, oh, you're seeing spots, or your vision's blurred and your arm is, you say numb. You need to go in. You're probably having a heart attack or whatever. And
a heart attack. You should go in the hospital.
Yeah. So I went and they hooked me up to EKG and whatever else. And the doctor's like, good news is you're 28. The likeliness of you having a heart attack is not there. We took your blood sample. Yes, you have a lot of caffeine in your blood. And I was like, oh, so it was just a moment of like a surprise, you know, like, hey, you just doubled your kid volume. And then also just tons of caffeine. So wasn't good for stress.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
How do you feel like you rebounded from that?
I think one thing I learned is don't drink so much caffeine in a day, for sure. I think I stay away from that, except for when Stacia's around. So our sister, she worked for Starbucks and has always worked for Starbucks. So she's actually the one who got me into caffeine and coffee. But when she's around, I end up drinking like 3 cups a day, like, because she makes pots. So like I have to watch that. Like, definitely, if you have an addiction to something, do not hang out with people that also encourage you within that addiction. You stay away from that. So me knowing, hey, don't have caffeine, but then also, again, like, I think realizing where the stress comes from. Like, hey, where's the stress coming from? And then also, like, again, I think back, like, what can I control? I think I rebounded from it in that my first 2 kids, my first 2 kids were a blessing. Second one was really difficult. Actually, the first one was difficult because he was colic, so he had a hard time like eating. The second one was difficult because she's a girl and she's just difficult. Yeah. The other 2 were actually really easy, and that's the way I was able to rebound, is that they slept pretty easy because they had each other. It's like babies cry when they don't have anybody around them sometimes. So at least they were next to each other. So they slept well. So I think just the ease of having them kind of smoothed it all out. But yeah, I don't know, in the immediate, like right after that day when I was stressed out, I don't remember. I think just time healed the stress. It was probably like a week or 2. So. Yeah.
I think that's important to remember. It's like, no matter what's going on, no matter how stressful the situation, eventually that will subside, you know, because this is a period of time, and the next period of time is about to come any moment now, you know. So just ease off a little bit, slowly but surely. Yeah. It'll subside. Now, as far as that goes, that was probably a bit more of like an emotional stress factor, right? Oh yeah, yeah. So. There are 3 different types of stresses usually that people have to go through. There's internal stress, you know, that has more to do with the gut system, the microbiome. You know, if you eat something bad, you're causing some sort of bloating, gassiness. Your system is under some sort of duress. That's stressful on your body. Then there's emotional stress, just like with the situation you're just talking about here. You know, having kids, going through those situations, or even something within like a relationship, right? I think those are the most impactful forms of stress because it's not something we can just fix in a second, right? A lot of those items we have to like wait for a period of time to fix. It's not like external stress where, like, let's say you're training too hard in the gym, all you got to do is back off for the next couple days and your body's going to come to some sort of homeostasis. Or internal stress, you basically take some sort of food item out, you know, in about a week after you've taken it out, you know, you're going to have regular digestion again. But emotional stress, you know, that stuff can last, you know, weeks, even months if you let it, you know.
Years.
Exactly. Someone may have a really bad situation with their parents, and it's like an ongoing thing. And it's not even like you're conversing with them on a regular basis, but when you see like their name pop up, you see like they just called you, you're always like, what was it about? Like, you're getting this anxiety feeling. And unfortunately, that's just, kind of we'll say society we live in. It's a very communicative society where you have to, not on a daily basis, but you have to be in some sort of form of contact with other people. You can't just live by yourself.
Yeah.
Right? It's just not how the world works. Well, I'm trying to think back to like, because like you said, a lot of the stressful items you went through were very self-inflicted. Now, what percentage would you say was emotional compared to like internal and external?
For me, like, man, I think it's perspective for me, because if I'm always in here, like, hey, how do I fix whatever this thing is? I'll be stressed forever. Yeah. Like, because I don't feel like I have power or whatever. I know this is random, but this verse came to mind. It's in Romans chapter 5, verses 3 through, I think 5. But it says, not only do we glory in our sufferings, because we know that the suffering produces perseverance, the perseverance character, the character hope, and hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has poured out into our hearts the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. So all that to say is that when we get stressed, our stress, you have to persevere through the stress, and then it builds your character, and then that character helps us have that hope of like, hey, I'm going to get out of this stress. Yeah. So often, if I don't have that perspective on it, hey, if I persevere through this, it's going to change my character. It's going to give me, I have to have patience within the stress, and then I can persevere. That's going to change my character, and then I have a hope that I'm going to get out of this. Mm-hmm. Every single time, if I'm just like, oh, I don't know, and I'm frantic, dude, I'm never going to get to the perseverance side. I'm never going to get to the building of my character. If you've ever seen somebody that runs from stresses or runs from issues or drinks it away or has some coping mechanism that's not like facing it, dude, they never grow. Yeah. And so like that verse is you see it played out in real life. Your character and who you are does not grow unless you actually sustain and persevere through that stress rather than run from it. Because like that job that I had, if I hadn't stayed at the job and said, hey, let me figure out how to become better within this environment, dude, I wouldn't have got better. I would have went to a different job and would have learned zero. Yeah. I think we even talked about this a couple episodes ago where we're like, hey, we're talking about change. Like it only, if there's a moment where you can't grow and you have to look at every moment like, hey, can I grow in this moment? Mm-hmm. Then that's what produces the ability to handle stress, like lifting weights. A lot of people don't like to squat specifically because they're like, oh, there's this pain on my neck. It hurts my neck. And so they put the little pad on the bar. Yeah. But putting the pad on the bar is avoiding the stress on your shoulders. And if you avoid that stress on your shoulders, you're never gonna adapt. You will always need that little pad, and it'll never feel good. But if you don't put that on there and you persevere and you hold that hard, sometimes really cold bar on your shoulders, eventually, dude, you get up to 500 pounds and you don't even feel the bar anymore.
Well, I feel the bar where there's 500 pounds on the back.
Well, I'll say once I hit 300 and once I'm at 400, like on my actual shoulders, I don't feel it. Yeah. On my back, heck yeah, I feel that. But in terms of on my shoulders, I could put almost any amount of weight. I could go over there, and I can't squat 600 pounds right now, but I guarantee you I can go over to the bar right now. I could get underneath the rack. I could push 600 pounds up. Like I'm not going to unrack it, but I'll lift it up. It won't hurt. Yeah. Because I'm used to that. But that doesn't happen unless you put yourself under that weight. Yeah. You don't get better. So I know it's always going to come back to weights, lifting weights somehow.
And you must not get those scarrings I get.
Oh,
every time.
No, I get full on. Looks like someone whipped my back.
Yeah, I hate that.
So, yeah.
This is like the next day I wake up and I'm just like, oh, what attacked me? And I'm looking at my shoulders. I'm like, oh, it's the barbell. Dang.
Do you use the one with the knurling in the center knurling?
I just use whatever's there.
Okay. So I have one that has center knurling on it. It's for squat to squat bar so that it'll grip your shirt. But dude, like it grips, it's so aggressive knurling that like I get like a scab right here because it's so aggressive. And anytime someone sees it, it's like, oh, what's going on with your neck? I was like, oh, squats.
Is that specifically, is a specific squat bar, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense though, because you want to be able to grip all parts, keep the tension on there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't fall off your back. But
Yeah.
Thinking back now that I'm thinking about college football, how many people drop the bar? They didn't have that middle roughage in the middle.
Yeah. You need that. It helps a lot. And that's, there's not very many bars that have it. If you see like Olympic bars, like standard Olympic bars, or weightlifting bars, the actual weightlifting bars, they never have that in the center because people put the bar on their chest, they put it in front of them, and you don't want to like
Olympic lifting. Yeah.
Hit your chin with that.
Hit your chin or hit your chest, man.
Yeah, anything. Yeah.
It's not gonna bounce off properly. So with that being said, about all our stress, now that we know what stress attacks and what it's where it comes from, what is your first go-to to like, and again, this depends on the situation. What is your first go-to to help you out with stress?
Like I said before, my first thing is like, I can't look within myself to fix it. Like there's no way, like I cannot, like within my power, there's some things like, there's a hole in the wall. Like the boys were playing in the house and one of them ran into the wall. Yeah. I can patch up a hole. So like I'm stressed because my boys are being idiots and they're doing dumb stuff. Oh, speaking of which, it's story time. Me and I think Ryan or Ruben, we were like, had to clean our room back in the Seaside house, and we were fighting. And I don't remember which one of us it was, but one of us was trying to throw something at the other one, and there's a sock like right at the doorway, and somebody started running out of the room. This was either Ryan or me. He slips, or I slip, one of us, and we slide across the floor, and our knee goes straight through the wall. I just said I had that example, but I didn't realize, hey, we actually did that. But I'm sure Dad was super stressed out because it's like, dude, what are you kids are just idiots. What are you doing?
I think you expect that as a parent, though. You're just like, my kid's going to do some dumb stuff. And then it actually happens. You're like, oh, dummy.
Well, see, so things that I know that I can handle, like easy things like that, like they don't stress me out. It is a stressful moment because now I got to handle this situation, but I can see the fix and the outcome. When it's things that are bigger than me, my automatic is I have to pray because I have to call on something bigger, someone bigger and better. It's like, when you're a kid and you mess up or you can't afford something or anything like that, you go to the next bigger thing than you. You go to your dad, like, hey, Dad, like this is broken. I can't do this. So I go to God, like, hey, I need you to fix this because I did a boo-boo and you're the one that can fix it. Yeah. I have a lot of different ways that I would go to after that. I don't think any of them are like, there's no like hierarchy of like, hey, this is the specific thing that I do. But I think the easiest thing to do for me is like, and I've said this before, walk through the end goal. Like, where is it going to get fixed? How is it going to get fixed? Let me walk through the whole thing and see what I can fix. And if I can see an outcome that's good, then that lowers my stress because I can see like where the end is. Yeah. So like, it's almost like when you see somebody that plays sports and they're like, hey, how do you do this? Well, I just imagine and I see it, the outcome. I see how to fix it or to do it. I think it was Michael Jordan who's like, oh, I imagine the basket as like this big old bucket and I watch the ball going in. Well, and that's how he, made most of his shots. Mm-hmm. Well, for me, I watch the outcome of like, hey, how is this going to play out? And then I my actions align with that pathway to get it fixed. And if you go anywhere else, then obviously you're not going to get to this outcome that you want because you're doing other stuff that's outside of it. Yeah.
The sports analogies over here.
It's all like, it's in me, man.
It makes sense for me. But I think for myself, it's always come down to, because growing up, I always had a short temper, right? It was just like instantly mad.
It's still there a little bit. You manage it a little bit better, but it's still there.
I think inherently, it's because of the youngest, so I'd get whatever I wanted, pretty much when I wanted, right? I had a very loving father, right? So it's just the nature of it, right? So that was my, not problem, but something I had to overcome over the years, and still working on it. But it's like, it's what I want to master at the end of my life, be able to be very stoic and just be like, nothing affects me, right? I think that's something I have to master in my lifetime. Now for me, All situations come down to, and this is like, for the most part, not everything, but most all situations come down to stepping back, taking a step back and getting away from it. Because if I stay there, I'll get heated really quick. So I'm a person who also likes to instigate things, and I've noticed that within myself. I'm like, I do like to instigate.
Instigate in what sense? Like, you just like to poke at something to see where it'll go, and like, oh, I see that's going to be bad, so I'll stop poking, or like,
because I want to be right in a lot of situations, so I'm just like, no, this is how it is. But you don't understand when someone else is also kind of heated, they're not going to think clearly too. They don't understand that you want to be right, and they'll be the ones to back off. So if you get in that argument between two heated people, no one's thinking clearly in that situation.
Oh yeah. We were at a pizza joint the other day, and our kids were playing, like, there's this like little turfed area on the outside of where we were eating, and they were playing like football out there and soccer, and there's a group of guys that were kind of drunk in the corner over here drinking, and me and a couple of friends were sitting at the table over here. And I think it was Kinsley. She throws a football, it hits the top of the roof, and it's a tin roof. It makes a super loud noise, and the guy yells like, "Hey!" Like, you know. And I'm like, "Is this guy yelling at my kids?" Like, I was like, "Oh no, I'm, you know, he better stop yelling at my kids." A couple minutes go by. One of the other kids kicks a soccer ball, hits right in the corner where they're at. They yell again, "Hey!" The guy that I was with, he was like his wife was like holding him down, like, because it was both of our kids that they were yelling at.
Yeah.
She was like, "Hey, no, don't go, like, don't do anything." And I'm like, it's just words right now. I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, they've already crossed the line. No one talks to my kid that way." And I'm just like, see, for me, like, that's a stressful situation. Like, if I decide to engage that and poke it and see where it goes, instigate that, it's not gonna go where I want it to go, because these are drunk guys.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was just like, just let it go. It's not an issue. It's not my stress. There's no reason to add stress to my life. They're not actually doing anything.
Yeah.
It's fine. But he was like, "Oh, they've already gone too far. Like, I'm gonna do something." And I was like, "No, it's good." I said, if they say something else again, and it's like if they use like actual words other than that, then maybe I would have done something. But like, it was harmless. So
I think it's important to note to be smart in those situations, because that feeling that riles up in you, you're like, oh, you said something to my kid, right? I think it's just also important to take note, like, was it really that big of a deal? What's going on with these guys? They're drunk. All right, so not a big deal. My kid's going to learn from this, like, maybe not throw the football over there or something, because they know, like, hey, maybe it's a little bit dangerous over there. So,
yeah.
And if they don't, something happens, obviously you're going to be there to protect your kid. But it's like you don't want to go around just poking the bear, right? Mm-hmm. And not to say that they're a bear, just to say that they'll probably do something stupid. You know what I mean? You never know what will happen.
Well, there's 7 of them and 2 of us, so I'm just like, I know I look intimidating, but what one guy can handle 7 guys besides Andre the Giant? He's the only guy that can.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of like, yeah, play your cards right. Maybe if there's a cop over there, you probably do whatever you want. But anyways, yeah. For me, it's always like, you can't, in those situations, for me specifically, you can't really take note of what's happening in the moment. You just got to be able to have like a sort of a trigger. Like, if like, this is happening right now, I need to just do this immediately. I think that's an important way to draw back and get back to that calm mind. And then you can think about the situation like, okay, here's what's happening. I was listening to the Chris Williamson podcast, Modern Wisdom, and he had Robert Glover on there. He's the guy who wrote Nowhere Mr. Nice Guy. And basically what really stood out to me in that one is that, these nice guys, they like to engage in these situations. They need the answer. They need to figure things out in the moment, right there, then and there. And he was talking about a situation with his wife where, like, he knows there's this look on her face, and he knows that he's in trouble or something. It's this innate feeling like, oh, I'm in trouble. But what he had to figure out over a period of time is just like, there's nothing you can do to fix it then and there. It has to be something that has to come later on. Like, if she's mad, like, you can't try to be like, hey, let's fix this now. Let's fix this now. So in every social situation where there's 2 people that are very upset at each other, it's best to just back off, come back cool-headed, and be a little bit more stoic about these situations. And I think that's where I've gone a lot better is just, like I said, taking a step back until whatever anger subsides, or so I can think a little bit more clearly and come back and engage in that conversation properly. You don't need it now. You need it eventually, but not now.
Yeah.
I think now is a very childish thing. Like, you have to fix it now. It doesn't have to be fixed now. It can be fixed later.
Yeah, that's one of the other, like the two next things on my list is like, hey, go get a breath of fresh air and just walk. I think a lot of times we get distracted with the situation, and we want to stress about the situation, but like I don't think people realize that their breath starts to shorten, and they get hyperventilating, but they don't realize that they're actually doing that, and that creates tons of stress because your body's not getting all the oxygen it needs. So if you go for a walk, and get away from whatever it is, it's going to force you to breathe and calm your breathing down, and actually get oxygen to your brain so you could think clearly. Because once you start thinking clearly, I mean, what steps can you take that mean anything at that point? So those are two simple ones that I think, even if you can do them separately, hey, stop, just move yourself away from the situation, just breathe some, or if you can just walk, whichever one you can do. By walking, you're automatically gonna breathe. So
I think those more situations that have to do with other people, right?
Yeah.
But as far as taking care of ourselves, making sure that we don't have a daily stress factor that could be, ridden in an instant, limit your social media time. I think that's a massive one that people don't pay attention to. You're constantly getting this dopamine spike, just finding the funny video or entertaining video constantly on there, just flipping. I think it's a cool thing, but it's also like, a very, I don't want to say bad, but we'll just say bad just because like it is a bad thing eventually for you.
I think it's stress inducing because you're looking at all these other people that post their highlight reels. Like, if you're following somebody that travels all the time, you're like, oh, why do they travel all these places and I don't do that? You start comparing, and you get stressed because you're like, oh, well, why don't I have this? Why don't I have that? And social media does that. It's just a highlight reel of people's, unless they're that person that sits with the camera and then starts crying, like, why are you doing that? Anyways, it makes you just compare your life, and then you get stressed because you're like, well, I'm not there, so like my life's not good. When if you just take it into account everything that you do have, you're like, man, my life is actually like really good. And I don't need that. And that's the part that creates stress of you thinking that you need something that you don't.
And I think the last thing that I'll bring up here is, doing what you need to do in the moment and stop putting things off. There's nothing worse, more stress inducing than like constantly putting something off that needs to be done and will eventually be done, but you're just not going to do it now. And you're like, shoot, it's the last minute again. Now I have to do it. And now you can't think clearly. And now you don't know, do I have enough time? All those things come into play here.
Yeah. I was, back in the day, people lived, Bible times, like 900 years. And I was just thinking.
You were in Bible times?
No, I wasn't in Bible times.
Like, I was in Bible times.
No, but I was reading with Kinsley. We were reading in Genesis, and these people lived 800-900 years. In that amount of time, there's no reason why you wouldn't be wealthy. Like, what did you do in 800-900 years that you didn't amount wealth for yourself? But for us, we don't have that amount of time. But it's like, hey, what am I doing every single day to make sure that I'm financially taken care of or whatever? And dude, I'll be the first to say, and I'll confess, bro, I'm way too lazy for what I can and should be doing to build a better future. Like, not just for me, for my kids, but just in general, and towards my purpose of what I'm supposed to be doing. Austin and I were talking the other day about like me wanting to train people. And, cause I've had a lot of people ask me like, hey, can you train me? And, I think it's important, and I want to do it. But I've been putting it off because I'm just like, well, I don't have to do that. But I want to do it because it, not for financial reasons initially, that's not the main thing. Obviously I would charge, but the main thing for me is hey, I can accomplish something that makes the world a better place, makes life and stuff easier and less stress for other people. So that's the whole point of what Threefold Fitness is. And I haven't really been fully living it. So I'm just like, dude, I just been slacking off, and I need to do do more in that sense towards just this vision and this purpose that I've been given. So, so that's been stressing me out, because I'm like, dude, I'm not living my stinking purpose and what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. So every day that goes by, I'm like, oh man, what did I accomplish today? Dang it, I didn't accomplish anything towards what's on my heart to do. So, if I'm stressed, that's my fault. Self-induced, because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah, you guys see the podcast and you guys see like random stuff that I do with people that come to the gym and working out with them and stuff like that. But dude, there's so much more stuff that's in my heart that I'm supposed to be doing that I'm just like, I'll get to it eventually.
Yeah. And even if it's not the last thing or ultimate thing you want to do, it's just something you at least try to do instead of just like putting it off. Because like, maybe you want to try a few different things, but you just never do any of them, and you never know what they end up being like. Yeah. And you're just kind of like in that same spot you started in, and there's nothing worse than that feeling. Yeah. Like, I'm still here a year later, Yeah.
A couple other things that I do for stress management. I don't know whether you guys ever have, like my mom, when we were younger, she used to boil potpourri on the stove, and it just smelled up the house, and it was like just smelled really good. And sometimes I'm like, man, like there's like this sprays or something like that Julie has around the house sometimes. And I'm like, oh, that reminds me of my childhood. Like if you have something that can bring about a good fragrance of some part of your life that was a good part of your life, whether it's lighting a candle, maybe have the little like Christmas tree, car things that you're familiar with, but a familiar smell will help you relieve stress. I know my aunt used to burn incense. I remember what the smell is, and it brings back just like childhood memories. It wasn't my favorite smell, but it does. I remember things, and it kind of it just calms me down. Yeah. I don't know whether you guys ever listen to classical music. I know that's one thing that I like to do also. Listening to classical music, like where there's no words, because words, just make things more stressful sometimes, especially if you're like, oh, let me listen to music to relax, and you got some like Megadeth or AC/DC or something like really hard going. That's stressing. And then if you listen to a song with words in it, like it's a Taylor Swift song, and it brings about like it makes you think about a breakup that you had a long time ago, then that stresses you out. So that's why I say, hey, listen to like classical music, because there's no words involved, and you can just get your mind off those type of things. And then the very last thing I would say, if you guys like art, or if you're someone that draws, or if you've ever even painted before, clay, I don't care what it is, you do something like creative, it just gets your mind off the thing that you're doing. And unless you really suck at it though, like if you really suck, it just stresses you out more, like you're drawing stick figures.
Oh, you could just draw it how you want. It's like it's like journaling, you're just putting your thoughts out on there, you're putting your mental image out on there.
You're just putting your feelings out into like a tangible, like you can see what your feelings look like on paper.
Have you seen that new age art that they do now?
I've seen a couple
stuff like that. People could do that.
I've seen a couple where there's this guy who's like just in his underwear, and he put paint all over his body, and he's slapping his body up against the wall and painting the wall.
You do stuff like that.
Yeah. And then there's another guy there's this big blank wall, and he had a trampoline, and he was running, and then like he had a marker and just like jumped on the trampoline and marked the wall up. But just do something creative. Like if you like to dance, be in a room by yourself, put some classical music on, do some interpretive dancing, just something to like just express yourself, whether it be through art, motion, whatever it is. And actually one that we didn't talk about at all, working out is a huge stress reliever. If you've seen someone punch a punching bag because they're angry, it's a way to get your anger out and your stress out. But just consistent weightlifting or even exercise, man, it just it's not necessarily the exercise itself, it's the dopamine that you get from working out that helps your mind think clearer and better. And if the gym is the hardest thing you do, it's things in life don't feel as hard, to be honest. There's a lot of things in life that I'm like, oh man, this would be really hard, but I'm like, oh, but I don't know, I've squatted 500 pounds before. I'm pretty sure that's harder.
So don't rely on the gym as your stress reliever, because it does induce stress as well. But you can think of it and coupled with these other items here.
Yeah.
Like it could be part of your regular routine. You have a regular routine that's going to reduce your stress levels because you basically, you have things figured out. It's less for you to think about, and the gym is a part of the day that most people like and tend to have fun in, right? It is your time. You can turn off all messages if you can. Any notifications, you can turn off that and just enjoy the time you're there, work out. That time's for you. I think that's important. It's kind of like meditation time because it is time specifically for you working on yourself.
Yeah. And then I think preventative things before you're even stressed is working out for sure. I think that you can obviously pray before you even get into the situations, but like reading and strengthening your mind and like having concepts already like embedded in you will help a lot, so that when you get into a stressful situation, you kind of have like I know how to navigate this. Like read books on stress, or not even books on stress, but like books on success. So now you're so busy on being successful, you don't have time to stress about the other stuff, or you're creating a scenario for yourself that is successful. So like usually most of our stresses, to be honest, they're money.
Yeah.
Like most people's stresses is money. So if you're concentrated on being successful and you're creating wealth for yourself, you've eliminated a stress. Like I think the idea is, hey, let me eliminate as many stress factors as I can in my life. Obviously, there's always going to be opportunity for stress, no matter how well equipped you are. But if we are working out, and so now we have one stress taken care of. I don't have to worry about my health. I'm taking care of that already. And then, business and success. If I'm working towards that and I'm taking care of that, then that's also another stressor I'm taking care of. The relational one, man, that one will always exist. You always meet new people and you always butt heads with somebody.
Yeah.
That one, you just have to learn how to have better character and be a better, not a people person, because I don't like people that just try to get along to get along, but people that are genuinely kind and just know how to interact with people in a genuine, kind way.
Yeah. Most of the things that we mentioned before as things you do after the fact, you can also use before the fact. Like most of these items, you could do on a daily basis. As long as you're doing what you need to do throughout the day, again, you're not putting things off. Think of anything where you have downtime that you would normally do in your downtime, as a stress reliever. People would usually watch TV. They just stare at a wall, go to sleep or something. That's all stuff that's going to help with your stress. Unless you're a person who gets super hyper fixed on movies and video games, where it does heighten your stress levels. You're playing things that make you very aggravated. All those competitive games, they add up eventually.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do this. This is stupid.
Throw the controller at the TV.
Yeah, exactly. Anything that's going to worsen your anger, it's probably not something you want to do. But a lot of those things can help.
Yeah.
But I think we're, maybe next time we'll get Tristan's input on some of these items here.
Oh yeah. So Tristan, he's just turned 18 and he's got to start adulting now. So I'm sure that he has his own world of stress that he's going into. Not all of us, but those of you that are over 18, you guys know what it's like. You're turning 18 and it's like, okay, do I go to school? Do I get a job? And, or do I do both? It's a new stress because new things are stressful, but that's part of the thing that I just said, like, hey, create a path for yourself of where you want to go so that you have so you know where you're going to go. The unknown is always stressful. Yeah. But if you have a guided path and like a plan, it takes away the one less unknown. At least I know where I'm going. It might not go according to plan, but at least I'm moving towards something. So,
Well, thank you guys for watching another episode here. This is episode number
29.
29. Okay, we're getting up there. We're almost hitting 30. Next week is 30.
Yeah, when we hit 50, maybe we'll do something. No, we'll definitely do something cool for 50. Maybe it's a giveaway, it's a challenge, something. But like I said, thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.